Hi everybody, it's been a while since I've done a lens review. I've been checking out all sorts of other gear, but today we're going to check out the popular Sigma 50-100 1.8. Now of course there are two versions of this. There is a stills version and there is a cinema version. And the cinema version is great for what it is if you want a purely mechanical lens and that sort of build quality. I made a different choice, and the primary reason I made a different choice was because of autofocus. I'm shooting at 70mm wide open. Well, I don't have an operator on the camera, but that doesn't matter because, hey, guess what? I just did an incredible focus pull wide open, going from about 20 feet to about 8 feet, wide open, and bang, it was on the money. So there's incredible value to be had with autofocus, and I think that at some point, cinema lenses are going to have to take autofocus seriously because it's just too good a tool to not have in a professional toolkit. I'm not going to give you a lot of lens charts with this lens outside of saying it's phenomenal. 4K, 6K, 8K, you're going to be happy, really pleased with the optical performance of it. Even though it is a smidge soft wide open, it's not anything that's really going to be appreciable and you're trying to shoot 8K wide open all the time. Now one thing I did do with this lens was do a micro focus adjustment on it. I have the Sigma USB lens adapter, and what that does is let me go in and make adjustments on this lens, and mainly the adjustments to do on this lens is the micro focus. I did that on my 80D. I shot a series of tests with a lens chart. Yeah, I said I wouldn't show you any. I'm not going to really do that. And I went through the whole calibration process, which tuned up the autofocus so that it's consistently dead on. I don't have to worry about it focusing on my ears or a little bit further back, so that when I take a little step in, hey, I just did an instant focus pull and it was just on the money. So this is about 70mm. We're going to go a little bit longer and check out that. Now we've jumped it up to 100mm and we're still wide open at 1.8. This lens looks beautiful. The wide open look of this lens is absolutely phenomenal. It's not the creamy mush that you associate with some lenses. It has a little bit of liveliness to it, which I think is its own unique character. And I really do find that fairly pleasing. As I walk in, I'm going to take advantage again of that autofocus, and wow, look at that, instant rack focus. The only thing that I find disappointing about this lens is the rather limited front focusing distance, which is about 3 feet. I really wish it focused to about 2 feet, which I would find a far more practical working distance. Now the other real issue with this lens is breathing. The breathing in the lens is something that a lot of people have noted, so let's just do another walk in and just look at it and see what it's like. And, you know, was it that bad or was it, you know, something that you can live with? Do we use just the traditional trick of hiding it in a camera move? This is going to be a decision that you need to figure out whether this is something that you can work around or not. I mean, personally for me, as a talking head lens, if you've got somebody who wants to bop around and move around and do this sort of thing, and I know that I can hold focus consistently and I'm not constantly riding the focus or wondering whether somebody moved out, well, that's a big comfort factor in terms of making sure that you're delivering consistent results wide open. That's a big plus. And this is 85mm from about the same position, and I'm not moving that thing down there. I am not going to move it. I am not going to move it because so far I've managed to do this at least a couple times without tripping over it, and there it is. Stay out of the way. One thing I found that's really helpful is to turn the autofocus speed down. A setting of -1, -2 seems to be the sweet spot. If you leave it up at 0, the ability for this thing to snap might be inappropriate. So if I, for example, want to jump out of the way. Another thing you should be aware of is this might not be a good lens in the cold weather. When I first got this lens, I was shooting with it outside at about 20 degrees Fahrenheit, and basically the zoom barrel became extremely stiff. I mean, I had to grab it with my whole hand and really grab it hard to get it to move. It was not a good situation. The focus, on the other hand, worked perfectly fine. So I had a conversation with Sigma. It went back and forth twice. Long story, really simplified, is the grease in the lens is really set up to be within spec, functional. The lens should work the way you'd expect, down to about 37 degrees Fahrenheit. It's not really too terribly impressive considering that throughout North America, Europe, and parts of Asia, it's not uncommon that winter temperatures will get down to 20 degrees or even 20 below. And I know I've done that too. Now, if the lens froze up at 20 below, I can understand that. That's pretty extreme, but 20 degrees Fahrenheit is really not that cold. So I don't know what to say with this one. I had Sigma remove the grease out of the zoom area part of my lens, and that seems to have probably helped. The reality is that probably inside the lens itself, when it gets cold, the parts contract and the tolerances inside just get tight. So that's my speculation, educated guess. I'm not sure what the fix is because obviously it's an engineering and materials one. Maybe they can grind out or mill out the slots a little bit. It would mean the lens would get a little looser at warm temperatures, but then again, it might be fine in the cold. So it's just something to be aware of. If you shoot in the cold, I'd really recommend that you get a chance to test, rent, beg, borrow this lens from somebody and test it for your shooting circumstances to see whether it's going to work for you. The Sigma 50-100 is a lens that I've actually decided to both buy and keep. I actually sold a couple of other lenses off that I'm not using, like a Canon 85 1.5 and another lens or two that I found redundant. In fact, I got rid of my 70-200 2.8. Sort of mixed feelings about having done that, but this lens covers me for 80-90% of my talking heads, my tight shots, because it's wide open. You know, 2.8 doesn't necessarily really cut it when you want this wonderful shallow depth of field, and you can get enough ND on the camera or dial your ISO down or whatever you got to do. But you can do it, you can dial it down, and yeah, you can keep this little autofocus going on so that when somebody, you know, misses their mark, moves around, and you're working by yourself, no worries, you got it. This lens is just going to follow you around, keep focus. I know, I keep looking up. I should stop doing that, but it's so much fun to watch myself just, you know, stay in focus, and I can go back and forth, and it's working, and wow, this is a good lens. I'm keeping it.